Insignificance, the 20th of September 2024. Maybe that's the key. Insignificance. This just means that if you die like you actually die, you would be sent to hell, that you would try to escape by bringing all the world back down with you. Like you would be in so much pain for a sin that you committed that you would try to escape it by making false claims about religion, that you would tell such an enormous lie, which would be so grievous that people would follow you into hell for it. This is essentially how the Quran explains how people would be gathered together with devils for deluding people from the right path. So, what if you saw him in hell? He entered hell when he was alive during the Isra and Mi'raj, when God took him up to heaven, through all the 7 heavens and encapsulated universes. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was permitted to enter Jannah and see it, and was permitted to enter hellfire and see it, and see those who were being tortured within it. This is like you're proving the Prophet's words, that he saw people in hell who would have your attitude. It is like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as what happened with Job in the Bible, have traveled through space and time when he did go through the miracle of the Isra and Mi'raj. Like you did meet him, but he was from the past, being led into hell to see its inhabitants for the sins that they have committed. The only difference is that you saw him in the present. It is as though he traveled through time. It is no wonder he was a prophet. Why would people who memorize the Quran leave the religion? Because they are trying to prove the religion to themselves, like using the creation of God, science, to prove faith. وَمَا اخْتَلَفُوا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ. They have not differed amongst themselves except after knowledge had been given to them, only to delude one another. And then I heard the sounds, moans, wails, and screams that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Cacophony of anguish sent shivers down my spine. Astaghfirullah, I whispered, seeking refuge in the familiar prayer for forgiveness. But the words felt hollow here, echoing uselessly in the oppressive atmosphere. With growing horror, I realized where I must be. This had to be Jahannam, the Islamic concept of hell that I had read about and even preached about but never truly comprehended until this moment. But how could this be? I was a devout Muslim, a man who had dedicated his life to Allah. Surely I didn't belong here. As if in response to my unspoken question, a voice boomed out, seeming to come from the very air around me. When you describe yourself and what you felt at that moment, the unspoken question is immediately answered by God, explained by God, because He knows your thoughts and intentions. The unspoken question is always answerable to prove that God knew it before you had asked it. He knew you would ask, and He knew you would contemplate why you are in hell even though you are a devout Muslim. He knew that you would have a question about it, but to prevent you from thinking that God could have put you there unjustly, He replied from the very air around you to prove to you that He had been close and He knows. It is like you have been put through a timeless machine, showing you how hell would look like, feel like, or appear like to humans, that it is a void wherein words would mean nothing. It is as though when God really does cause people to stay in Jahannam, it would be because their seeking forgiveness of him would be considered a voice echoing in the room, meaninglessly. It is still a well known fact that you have not yet entered Jahannam. And since you had been told that you will be given a vision, you should anticipate that you have to remember and act accordingly. What are you seeking forgiveness for? It is like when you are asking forgiveness for a destiny that you did not yet merit. Had you not been a person who continuously said Astaghfirullah, you would have been thrown in hell. It is like saying that you would be considered a poet. I don't care if you kill me after I take him down, or him taking me out. You did not see the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in hell, being tormented by demons as you claim. You have seen a person who comes from the Prophet's lineage, who will use their lineage and their closeness to the Prophet as a weapon, claiming to be speaking for religion, but speaks against religion and maintaining it. It is a person who would be from the lineage of the Prophet, but would take advantage of that to gain power and authority, in turn causing the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, not identify them, and would instead rather have them burn in hell for their sins and the sins of those who followed them. A dream has many interpretations that apply to one person in accordance with their life story. You seem to have been a pious man who was actually a devout Muslim. It appears as though you were tested with your love for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the dream. Had you just had the intention to defend the Prophet, peace be upon him, against demons, it will have helped to prove your loyalty to him and to God by extension. The Prophet was said to have appeared in hell in Dante's Inferno as a big novel that the West had already been infatuated with, and it defines Western perceptions of hell. Why had you, as a devout Muslim, not read that book and took action against it? The Prophet would not be destined to reside in hell. It comes from God's justice that he would never send a prophet of his to hell. It is no wonder that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described that God would allow all the Prophet's followers to be residents of heaven for following in his sunnah. If you are a follower of the sunnah, a believer, then you would not be sent to hell. God does not contradict himself. Since he sent prophets to lead people to the right path, to the path of righteousness, the path of true faith, then he would not unjustly send them to hell. Even if you are shown a vision from hell, this should not cause you to lose faith. It is actually a scientifically valid proof that the religion is true. Do you just take a vision from hell to be a deterministic reason to apostate? That would be ridiculous. That's a problem. Why is it a problem? For the dead to speak through the living. There was this movie. Could near-death experiences be equated to that? The dead speaking through the living? They would need to be dead to speak through the living, because no two souls can speak through one another. A spirit of a dead person would not be allowed to take control of the body of a living person when their soul is already attached to it. In near-death experiences, it is when they are in a state of either living or dead, in a coma in a hospital. Some people would see themselves floating above their own body, seeing their body sleeping. Therefore, to enter hell, it has to be a vision that is made possible by the will of God. The person is made to go through what they are going through in order to make room for the event to happen. A vision, in principle, carries a message to the person themselves and to other people who hear of the dream. It is no wonder that Joseph, peace be upon him, was told by his father not to tell his own brothers of his dream. A vision can take many interpretations, and they are considered the last remaining untold part of prophecy.